So, hello everyone. Namaste. Namaste, Kumar Rishi ji.
Namaste,
Uh,
Julia ji.
namaste, all the viewers from Rishikesh and anywhere else, whoever is watching right now. We are discussing a very interesting subject today with a Vedic astrologer from Rishikesh, Kumar Rishi. So, the subject today is the Saturn return. As you know, Saturn is a planet. That's pretty much what people know for the most part. That's what I used to know, that the Saturn is just a big planet. I had no idea how it influenced my life or anyone's life for that matter until we start looking into astrology. So, and after I experienced my own Saturn return, I really realized that it actually has a much bigger impact than we think or that we know of. And I started researching that subject myself. And I found out a lot of interesting things about it. So now I'm very excited to talk to a Vedic astrologer about the planet Saturn and its effects on our lives and also the events on our life, and specifically to talk about the Saturn return, the phenomena which not so many people still know about, but it's a very powerful thing. And if I think it's very interesting to just kind of inform ourselves. It's important to inform ourselves about it. So let's begin, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the planet itself, and just go for it.
Yeah, sure. So, before I start, let me thank you for inviting me over to your show. It's a great
Thank you for
platform, and
joining.
thank you so much for that. And see, astrology or yoga or any of these sciences, like these are all ancient sciences, or any of the ancient sciences. These are discoveries and observation and research done by people many centuries ago, right? When they reach us in today's time, they have traveled through a lot of distortion, and because of that distortion, we sometimes think that these things, either they're not real, or we think, like, how can a planet have an impact on me because the science says it cannot, or something like that. But if we give it enough time, we see that we are always going backwards in time. We are not really moving forward, we are going backwards in time, because we are repeating what has been done before. We're just repeating, maybe doing it a little differently, but we are following it. Like if you read the scriptures, Vedas, and also you would find mention of aeroplanes and nuclear wars and things like that. So it's very interesting. When we talk about Saturn, so Saturn is not just a planet. Saturn basically represents a personality.
Hmm.
The way planet is understood in modern science and the way planet is described in Vedic astrology or Vedic sciences is completely different. We are not talking about an object which is floating in the space with certain mass, with certain qualities and all those things. We are talking about qualities and personalities that, as an individual, as a human, we are capable of embodying through the vibration created by this particular body floating in space. It can, like, in somewhere we consider Saturn to be a person, somewhere we consider Saturn to be a personality, somewhere we consider Saturn to be a planet. So what we do, like, we actually work with it, we research, we work with it, and we work with its qualities, and we create that. So that's why this, a lot of people have this feeling like, it's a planet, how can it impact me? Well, look at sun. If the sun doesn't come out, there is no life on earth. If the moon doesn't come out, there's no life on earth again. So similarly, if Saturn ceases to exist, there's going to be a phenomenal change. This is a topic which I will pick up with you another day, about the existence of planets, because
Mhm.
like Pluto, I will talk about that some other day. But for now, to understand Saturn, basically it is the slowest moving planet in our solar system and in astrology as well. So all these planets are going, following a certain path, which we can call like a zodiac belt. On that zodiac belt, they're all moving, and they're all circling around the sun. So Saturn takes about 30 years to complete this circle, right? And that's why it becomes the slowest. We take about 1 year. That's why, 365 days and we go around. But Saturn takes 30 years. So that's this 30 into 365 days, number of days. That's the amount of time Saturn is taking. Now, the understanding of like basic personality of Saturn is that the element which is associated with Saturn is the element air. Okay, and that's why a lot of good and bad things happen in the air because of Saturn. Saturn returned on January 2020. There is a virus in the air. You see, the corona, how is it traveling? It's traveling through air, and Saturn controls air. It has come back. Now, I'm not going to start off with explaining the negative or positive of Saturn return. That is something we will probably do later. But basically, understanding the personality of Saturn is the old one. Saturn is the mature one. Saturn is the slow one. It is the one which is actually considered in the cabinet of planets in Vedic astrology. Saturn is considered to be the judge. Saturn is considered to be the judge, and Saturn in the horoscope that we have, the Indian horoscope, Saturn, there are 12 houses. Saturn controls the house of karma, or basically our actions, things that we are doing. It controls two houses. First is house of karma, and the second is the house of good results or bad results, gains. Basically, what are we going to gain? So if you look at it, the logic is like, based on your karma, Saturn is giving you results. So this will vary for everyone from chart to chart. People who have like a strong Saturn will certainly be the ones who stand out of the crowd. I will explain how. But one more thing before I get into that is that Saturn is also considered in Vedic astrology and even in Western astrology, it's considered to be the pain, the planet which causes pain, or the planet of suffering, the planet of misery. The reason why people address it, which is a very toxic way of addressing Saturn, which is not right, when you say that it's a planet causing pain, it's not true. It's a planet actually which is showing you or giving you results of what you've done. So it's actually the karma. It's the karma, the planet of karma, which is working and giving you what you have earned. And whatever we have earned, whatever is like being given to us, what you desire the most, even if that thing is given to you, after a certain time becomes a pain. That's normally how we look at everything. Because we are perceiving everything through our senses, and our senses see them as pain or not pain. But in reality, Saturn is only giving us what we have earned. It's doing justice. It's doing justice not with an individual alone, but it is doing justice with the whole world, with the whole universe. That is what its role is. That's the reason why it's the planet which takes the most number of years to travel around the sun, because it gathers a lot of information. It gathers a lot of things that we are doing. It gives us a lot of time. It says like, okay, take your time, think about what you want to do, and then go ahead, proceed with it. Every time Saturn returns, major changes happen across the world, and major changes happen in a person's life as well. Today, the way I've planned this this interaction with you is that I will take you back in time with Saturn returning, the previous Saturn return, which happened. Okay. And we will look through that, like the events which happened then, which kind of changed the course of today's time, where we are now. And then we will also look at the present time, how Saturn is impacting us in the present time. Also, we can create another platform where we can see the future, where Saturn is taking us, the future where it wants to take. Okay, so just to give you a quick conclusion about Saturn and its personality, the personality is that it's a judge, it's a planet of karma, it's the most karmic planet, it is the most you can say stable planet. It is the most stable, but in every form. It is stable in its good form, and it's stable in its not so good form as well. So if there is instability in the world, Saturn maintains it stably. You see the what I'm saying, like the paradoxical, that the in the chaos, if there is chaos, Saturn will maintain that chaos for a very long time. It will not give you a quick chaos. It will be like, okay, let it stay. It's a slow one. That's the reason why people often fear. So it's not a planet to be feared, it's a planet to be understood, respected, and then our actions should also be in alignment with Saturn, or the teachings of Saturn, or the personality that Saturn indicates, so that we can make our life even better. Because if the Saturn in a person's chart or in the global chart goes bad, then it creates a wall of ice around us, a cold ice. That's what Saturn represents. The element is air, but what it creates is ice through that air, and once that ice has been created, there is no way you can get into them. Okay, it's like because the way Saturn works is like that. Saturn is a planet of actual abundance. We're talking about so many other planets that Jupiter is giving abundance. They do give, but Saturn is the actual abundance, because Saturn gives you so much that you can't really handle. So people who are like the billionaires of this world, billionaires, zillionaires, they are all those people who have a very strong Saturn in their chart. Without Saturn, it's not possible to get rich. But when they become so rich, the Saturn creates this ice wall around them, certain coldness. This coldness comes because Saturn is very rigid, it's very rigid. It's not flexible like ice. But the original, the source of ice is water. Somebody who starts off to flow like water will become very rigid after some time. So if you will talk about billionaires, people who are controlling our world, billionaires, if you will look at their journey, how they started off, they were very flexible with doing everything. They were very flexible with their services. They were very flexible with themselves. There was a lot of flexibility was there. But as they grew and as they started accumulating this Saturn's wealth, they started to become cold. So these are the people who would be like, the coldness is such that they will create something, they will sell it to a lot of people. And then at the same time, you go and you tell them like, hey, people didn't like it. And because of this, a lot of people died. And they will ask you a question like, how many died? And you say 100,000. And this is just 100,000. There were 7 billion people. Let few more die. Then I will think about it. So that is the kind of coldness which gets created. Because we have to understand that when Saturn blesses us, even when it blesses us, there's always a catch. The catch is there because it's its nature. So for example, like if Saturn represents the judiciary system or the judge, so even if you go to a courtroom and you win the case, even then it must be a terrible situation to go to a courtroom, if you have to go to, even if you're winning. But so what I'm trying to say is like, even when Saturn is blessing you, there's still a catch. That's why people fear it. So that's why the understanding that we have to create around Saturn is that it wants a lot of patience, and it wants a lot of wisdom and right doing, keeping an account of our karma and doing good karma. Saturn is the planet which represents yogis or yoga. Saturn is yoga is impossible without Saturn's blessing. That's why if you will look at a yogi, how flexible they are, their body is very flexible, but look at how rigid they can be, that they can remain in one asana for like hours and not move. I'm talking about real hatha yogis, not hatha yogi, hatha yogis who are real. The word is hat, not hatha. So the real hat yogi means like they are on hat. Hat means that stubborn. No, I will not move. Why are they stubborn? Because of this Satanic energy in them that like, okay, I can achieve it, I will not move. So they turn this water into ice for themselves as well. So this is why like anybody like who's a yogi automatically has a connection with Saturn. That's the connection comes.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it can be used in a very good way by becoming a very good yogi who is blessing the whole world, guiding people, or it can be in a very aggressive way. You will find that there are yogis who are very aggressive. You will find who are yogis who are very, fighting and doing stuff like that, and you will also find yogis who are very peaceful. So the reason why this happens is because of Saturn. So that is broadly what Saturn means. Now, Saturn return is a phenomena which happens every 30 years, because it will take about 30 years to travel through the zodiac belt and come back to the place from where it started. Now, when Saturn comes back to the place from where it started, it's like a 30 years long it was away. So like, for example, the hotel where you're staying right now, the owner of this hotel goes out for 30 years. So when he comes back, this room is not going to look like the way he gave it to you. You will make your alterations, you will change it, you will add new things, subtract, whatever. And when Saturn will reach there, he'll be like so shocked, like, what have you done to my world? I gave you in certain ways. So whenever Saturn returns, it starts making changes. And based on what you've done, like for example, if you turn this room into even a better room than what it was, then the landlord comes and he's really happy with you. And he's like, whoa, I'm really going to bless you. I'm going to give you even more. But if it's different, other way around, then he's be like, okay, let me now just punish you, or something like that. So first thing about Saturn return that we have to understand, it is not a thing to be feared. It is a thing to be understood, and it is a thing which is based on our karma. Saturn does this thing constantly throughout this 30 years time period. In between also, it gives us a lot of opportunities. We don't really take it. But now, since Saturn is in its return, and it's going to be like this for another 3 years, this is a great time for all of us to start making changes in our life. Either we'll do it willingly, or they will just happen, like what's happening in the world right now. The lockdown is happening. It's happening because it's a Saturn's way of telling us that we have been not treating Mother Earth with respect. So if you will go back 30 years from now, 30 years from now is when people started talking about globalization. 30 years from now, people started talking about this global warming and threats, and it was there before, but now it became more vocal. And during these last 30 years, we didn't do anything. We only talked about it. The moment Saturn entered into its return, first thing it did, it came in January, 20th of January, 2020. The moment it came in, it declared a shutdown. Now, Saturn represents boundaries. So if you will see, the first thing it did was like it closed all the boundaries. All the world boundaries are closed. And Saturn represents the element air. So if you see the virus, it travels through air. So you see the connection, how it's building up so beautifully. So the moment it comes in, it starts taking control. Saturn also represents like natural calamities. So there was a cyclone which hit India on the eastern coast. Now there's a cyclone hitting India in Mumbai, right? So it is coming, with full force as an aerial, destroyer. And the cyclones are not only coming here; they might be coming in other areas also. It also does causes earthquake, so earthquakes are also happening. So these are natural calamities which it is bringing, because what it's actually doing, it's like it's restructuring its house. You changed it, like we all changed the house, so it's like, okay, now let me fix it. It started doing that. So
Right.
I would like to take you back 30 years, in the year 1990, when Saturn return happened last time. What major things happened? I will just try to give you a quick, I have a list of things which happened. You will find them interesting and you can link them. You can connect them that these things were happening. So, so the events that I'm would be revolving around would be events between relating to boundaries, meaning new countries forming and all countries breaking. I will start with a country which is, I think, very dear to you. That in the year 1990, 300,000 people demonstrated for independence in Lithuania, SSR. So they wanted to separate themselves from USSR. This was not the only country. There were Azerbaijan, there was Ethiopia, not Ethiopia, what is it called? Not, Estonia, I don't know.
Right.
A lot of countries which started creating their own boundaries, separating themselves, who have been together for such a long time, separating themselves. That is one thing which Saturn indicates. Are
Screen
you
is
able to hear me?
frozen.
Because the video looks quite frozen.
Maybe your connection is not so good.
You look quite frozen to me.
And you're frozen to me. I can still hear the voice though.
Okay. So in the year 1990, or when Saturn returned, last time when it returned. So the moment it entered, the moment it returned, first thing it did was like this, the breakdown of USSR. So but working with boundaries, Saturn is breaking unhealthy boundaries. So right now, the moment it came in, it closed down the boundaries, working with unsafe boundaries. Like people probably were crossing into each other's boundaries too much. Then the other thing around, like, this is another interesting thing which you will find, especially what's happening since last few weeks, 1 or 2 weeks after the death of Mr. Floyd. In 1990, it was the first time when in America, in Richmond, Virginia, they had a first African-American governor. You see the change coming. In 1990 was the time when the South African government agreed to have this dialogue with the South African Congress, the black people, that they will end this apartheid. I don't know how to pronounce it. Like the racial discrimination which happened in South Africa. That is when they said we will end it. It was in the year 1990. Okay, and another interesting thing is, like, in the year 1990, the date was 4th of May when this thing happened, when this change started to people started to talk about this racial discrimination. And on 25th of May is when Mr. Floyd was killed. You see, the timing is also so close. In 1990, there was another incident of 4 people killing one Mr. Rodney King. Rodney King, he was an African American man. They killed him in 1990, because of which 63 more people died, and there was a collateral damage of around $1 billion in USA. See the connection, and this is what's happening right now. Like, there is a breakdown, people are fighting their own streets. And in 1990, again, the US had to use their army to stop the people. So Saturn is not a joke. Like, he's like really serious about doing what he wants to do. So if he wants to, this racial discrimination, it started off in 1990. It resolved a lot of issues. Like, it ended in South Africa. It gave you a first Afro-American governor, and already something like this has happened. When Saturn came back after 30 years, it sees that the world is still racially discriminating people. So what it's doing, it's taking control, and this thing started. So it does not mean that Saturn will completely end it. Saturn just pokes us, indicates us, and reminds us, like, see, this is what we're doing wrong, and it's up to us how we take it from there. Then in the another interesting thing which happened in 1990 was globalization began across the world in 1990. In 1990, Russia and China had their first McDonald's or Pizza Hut outlet. It took them, like, I don't know, 8 months, 10 months to create or whatever, but they had their first globalization, opening up of borders. See, in 1990, it was more about opening up of borders. In 2020, borders are closed. What it is telling is, like, what we are doing is, like, we're destroying this economy, or the world, by too much of indulgence of other people, trying to control. So what Saturn is indicating is, like, keep control with you. move with a proper way, not in a capitalistic way, you know, not in a socialist or a capitalist way. It's saying in a more human way. So it is reminding us that, you know, globalization, important thing happened. Another important thing in India, what happened was like there were around 100,000 Kashmiri people from Kashmir. They had to run away from Kashmir because of some kind of terror, like, you know, religious terror and something like that. They had to run away from there. Again, working with boundaries, running away, okay, scaring people. And in I think this happened not under when Saturn returned completely, but just before that, that there was a change in the way things were operating in Kashmir by the existing prime minister,
Mm.
by making certain changes and amendments and making declaring things to be a complete part of India. Okay, so things change over there as well. Then, interestingly, 30 years ago, in 1990, was the time when Nelson Mandela was released from you know, he was in prison for 27 years. For Nelson Mandela, it was beginning of his Saturn return. For the next 30 years, he remained in jail, and then he came out exactly when Saturn returned. It was such a life-changing path for him, and also for the entire South African, and also for all the whole of the world, you know. So it's such a powerful thing around this, you know, negativity or discrimination or injustice. Basically, I told you Saturn is a planet of justice, and the injustice that we do to others, Saturn comes back and it takes its, you know, you can say it revenge, or it gives us results. Then in 1990, that's in the October, if you would know this, it was in 1990 when the Berlin, the wall of this thing, Berlin Wall was broken, and West Germany and East Germany became one. They became one reunified Germany. This also happened in 90, again breaking the walls, breaking the barrier. So if we look at the trend in 1990, Saturn was bringing people together. It started doing this thing. So it's not doing anything negative, but if we look at it, for someone, you know, over there, he might suffer. They will say that there's so much of suffering because of this new unification. There's changes in laws and we don't like it and everything. But this suffering is actually going to give us very good results in coming years. That is what Saturn is all about. That is what Saturn return is all about. So normally people are just looking at as a very bad thing, but it's not a bad thing at all. It's a thing which is coming to make major transformation. Like, I think gathering of people are happening, like, I don't know if it was called a black square or something like that, for this the recent event of Mr. Floyd. Something like this also happened in England, but a lot of people died. I'm not going to mention that one here now. uh, that the concept of Earth Day was also created in 1990. So 30 years ago, they created this Earth Day should be there. And even Ocean's Day was also there, like to protect. So Saturn is going to, when it's back in its return, it is going to check what have we done to Earth in last 30 years. Did we do anything about it or not? And if we didn't, then it will reward us accordingly. Uh, then see, this coronavirus is also called, like, it's like a chemical war. It's like not a natural virus. It's a man-made virus. In 1990, USSR and USA had signed a treaty saying that no more chemical weapons. They forgot that, and they continued to make chemical weapons. The moment 2020 starts, comes in. He reminds us of chemical weapons still exist. Go check, you know, because this is a chemical weapon what has been used all over the world. Then on a lighter note, what happened in 1990 was also a lot of people, you know, rising from nothing, and a lot of fantasies coming into reality, because 1990 was the year when J.K. Rowling, the author of famous Harry Potter, she got the idea that she wants to write Harry Potter. It was in 1990. And it has also changed the face of a lot of things, like how people look at magic. Like earlier, if somebody would say that you're a witch, people might get offended. But now, if you say that you're a witch, people say, yes, I think I am Hermione Granger. I want to be like that kind of witch. So this also happened then. There were also wars, like there's war brewing around the world, like China is like, making movements at Indian borders, and with Taiwan, and sorry, with Indonesia and other places somewhere, and with US and other countries, with Pakistan. In 1990, the Gulf War started off. The Gulf War started off in 1990. Okay. And another one of the most important phenomena which started off in 1990 was the World Wide Web, internet. This guy named Tim Berners-Lee, he started working on his project of creating this www, and since then, 30 years now, if you look, completely changed the way we are using internet. So that's another thing. So there are a lot of, I have a list of all these things which happened, like the wars, the breakdown of walls, and opening up of borders and closing up of borders, new countries forming, old organizations fading away. And the most important thing which I think happened also in 1990 was that officially Canada, USA, and there were 32 more European countries which they met in Paris and officially declared that we are ending Cold War. Saturn is ice, and he says, end this ice. He came, he ended that ice the moment his time kicked in, right? So I think this is the pattern which Saturn follows. It gives you a 30 years of certain thing, and it checks you, and the next 30 years are based on what you did in your previous 30 years. And based on that, it tries to fix issues and problems globally for everyone. And yeah, so these are a few of the things which happened. So basically what I'm trying to say, or what I'm trying to connect here with Saturn return, basically, because this is going to be with us for the next 3 years. We are all in a sort of Saturn return, because Saturn has come back to its own home. For everybody, it can be different, but this is a global Saturn return. Like, Saturn has come to its own home. For
What,
you,
when
Saturn,
you say its own home, like where did he return actually?
he's in the sign of Capricorn.
Okay.
So the sign of Capricorn and sign of Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So you can say he's going to be at home for next 6 years, 3 years in Capricorn and 3 years in Aquarius. Okay. And then it will again leave his home and go on its journey. So when it comes back, it stays also at home for a long time. So if you will, the period from 1990 till 1996, you will see so many reforms, global reforms, so many changes all over the world. Whether it's the internet, whether it's globalization, whether it's liberalization, whether it's changing, in the racial discrimination, banning certain things, like smoking was banned all over the world. Especially in US, it was banned in the airplanes and everything, that you cannot smoke. Before that, it was open. These are small things, but it makes a big difference. Creating days like Earth Day, releasing a man like Nelson Mandela. WHO, interestingly, made in the 1990s, it says, or it removed homosexuality as a disease, and they accepted people. Before that, it was treated like a disease. So you see, change happens. So Saturn is a very orthodox, very very orthodox, very inferior kind of a feeling creator, kind of a planet. But at the same time, it is also the one who breaks these fears. It's the one who breaks these myths. That's why it's more mystical than mythical, or magical. So so what this Saturn returns for, how it's going to work, especially for you, that we get to know only through your chart, because we have to see the placement of your Saturn, how things are happening. What I'm talking about the Saturn return, if I'm making the horoscope of time, of time. So when I make this horoscope of time, I see that in time, Saturn has returned to its own home. So it has come back with a lot of experience. It has come back with a lot of exposure of the internet world, with different kind of warfares and different kind of things, and a lot of thought process, a lot of opening up. a lot of over the border connection between people, you know. So what it's also progressing, but what it wants to do is like it wants us to remember healthy progressing. So basically, you know, you will find that a lot of people during this Saturn return will either try to break through your boundaries, or you would be, you know, invading into their boundaries. But the real thing for us to understand is to work within ourselves and respect other people and respect ourselves and be patient with people. Right now, you will see a lot of people will lose patience. A lot of, you
Yeah.
know, for no reason. Like
So,
if, are you there or are we frozen? Because so you will see that there is so much of this anger, and there's so much of frustration, and there's so much of rebellious nature that people are having. This is not the right way of handling the situation, because like for example, if there are like what happened in USA by the killing of the black man, the way it has to be handled, we are not really handling it that way. We are handling fighting fire with fire. We're creating more clashes. You know,
right.
people even with good intentions who are trying to, you know, safeguard the interest of other people. Even then, they are moving with a lot of anger, and this is what Saturn continuously tells us. Like you're a yogi, so what does a yogi? The first lesson that is being taught to a yogi is to let go of your anger. Because of your anger, you cannot do or you cannot become a yogi. And because of Saturn is a yogi and we are in his time, and people are not following his simple principle, he says like you have to do things more patiently
Mm,
without creating more you know, injustice and imbalance. So you know, there are these people, I'm not saying any side, both sides are doing, I feel they're creating this imbalance, and Saturn will provoke it because it enjoys it. It enjoys it because like it's a judge. It enjoys if the cases are coming in. If nobody is fighting, he will cease to have his role and nobody will go to a court. So he's not like not having fun out of it, but he's like, okay, let me just wait and watch what are you guys doing. So you will see that a lot of big people, people with power will suddenly rise and will introduce very controlling, very cold, very inhuman policies. They will try to introduce those things. Okay, there would be war and things like this. But at the same time, Saturn is like justice, balance. So it will try to overcome this negative emotions that with which people are working. The right thing as an individual for us to do is to meditate even more, is to connect with our inner self even more, is to have a closer look at our karma, that what kind of karma are we creating. And most importantly, this is what I will say to all of you or all of us, including me, like if in last 30 years, if there is someone or something or a group of people or anything that we feel, we remember and we feel that we were not good to them or we did something wrong, this is a great time to apologize. This is a great time to say I'm sorry. If you're not able to say that to that person, at least say it to yourself in your heart, remembering that person, closing your eyes and saying that I did wrong and I'm really sorry for that. And because if you really mean it from your heart, Saturn will give you absolution. It will give you forgiveness. Saturn will do that. You know, this is what the whole concept of Saturn is. So I've taken it like more from a global point of view and not like just an individual point of view and saying that, you know, Saturn is good with relationship, bad for sign, and this. I don't think that that is okay.
so that's interesting. And also, I was wondering how we can uh, how we can use this time when the Saturn return hits our individual chart. Uh,
So
what is your advice to anyone who's going through this period, for example? Because it can be very chaotic, it can be very challenging.
okay, so this is like I mentioned before. This is not necessarily a Saturn return for everyone. This is a Saturn return for people who have their Saturn in Capricorn.
Hmm.
But other people are also going to get influenced because it's a universal Saturn return, you can say. For if you make a horoscope of time, in the horoscope of time it is a Saturn return. So that's why it is going to impact all of us, but to a certain extent. Now, for an individual to how to handle their own Saturn return, Saturn works in a very, very funny way. Because, for example, you want this harmonica, it will not give you. Okay, you want it, it will not give you. It is in front of you. Every time they try to take it, it will not give you. And after a long time, and you still want it, you still try, and after a long time it will say, okay, take it. Now when you will take it, you blow into it and you didn't like it. So you're like, my it's tired, I don't like it, and you want to keep it away, but Saturn is like, no, play. And you're like, no, I don't like it. No, it's like, no, now you play. So what I'm trying to say is, like, he will either delay or not give you something, and when it will give you, it will not let you part from it. And if you will part from it, it becomes really difficult, especially in terms of relationship. It works really hard for people, like people who are like maybe you can say Leo ascendants or Cancer ascendants. For them especially, even more, that their relationships, they they will come. Either they've been waiting for a good relationship, it will not come, it will not come. A good relationship will come. When it will come, they would be like really scared of it, or don't know what to do it, or try to run away from it, and then they will join. So basically what happens normally with people is like that, they will constantly ask for something. If that comes, they are like unsure how to use it.
Right.
So over here, this is the wisdom with which we have to work. Like, if something has come in our life, we have to like really take responsibility and really take care and nurture that particular thing, especially in terms of relationship, because Saturn can turn very cold relationships into very cold heartedness. You will find, like, I don't know if you've been in any of this like toxic relationship where your partner is absolutely indifferent about you. So this indifference can get even more because of Saturn. But the problem is that it will create that indifference, but at the same time it will not let you have freedom. So you know that is you can say that is, yeah. So this indifference that Saturn can create, this is the real cause of our suffering,
Hmm.
especially in terms of relationship for people. And it's not like just a romantic relationship, any kind of relationship. You see the relationship between countries can be so toxic or can be so healthy, but they don't let go of each other. Like, for example, the relationship between USSR and USA, now Russia and USA, they are arch enemies or friends, we don't know, but they're still so connected. If they do something wrong, they also do something wrong. So they don't want to hate each other, but they can't let go of it. That's the relationship they have a relationship of hate. So because Saturn won't let you go, if you will create a relationship, and that you have asked from Saturn. So like I said this thing especially for people who are Cancer and Leo, because Saturn rules their house of spouse and their house of relationship and their house of the outside world.
But you
So
said
the kind of
Leo rising or Leo sun, because I'm Leo sun.
rising.
Okay.
No, I'm saying Leo rising. Even for Leo sun, for Leo sun people, it's okay. But Leo sun people also have to remember that you are constantly being watched by Saturn. You have to take control of your ego. So
Yeah.
I'm not giving a reading to you right now, so we'll not get into it.
Right.
But that's where you have to work on. But for these people, Leo rising and Cancer rising, especially for them, this becomes very important. And if they are having a Saturn return, again it becomes important, because if you will create this sort of coldness, like, you will find that these people will say either there was a coldness in their system, in their heart, since last 30 years. They were just in too much of coldness. This moment right now is the time of transformation. So
Mhm.
people who have had this coldness, they can transform themselves. For the next 30 years, they're going to have a very warm heart. But
Mm.
if they don't, then the pattern continues, then the coldness increases even more. So your heart has to be filled with love and fire, and not ice, passion. With that they have to, because Saturn will not let them do it. It's difficult, but I'm giving them the remedy that consciously at least they can make these efforts. Unconsciously a lot of things will happen they would not be aware of. But at least they need to make conscious efforts so that they can stop Saturn from making this coldness, because they they will just continue to complain about it otherwise. Continue to, like, people who say like, I have bad relationship in last 30 years, I married 20 times. The reason why they're having this is because of this.
Mm.
That can be an extreme case in for that particular person, that they had to marry for 20 times, or they might have had so many relationships, bad ones, uh, because of this reason, that they are not just simply sitting down and understanding the nature of Saturn. Saturn is simple, it's karmic, and it's simply what it wants. It wants you to earn something and then respect that thing. So if you've had like bad relationships for 30 years, so now you should know the value of having a good relationship, and then you take care of it, you preserve it, you protect it. That's all what it wants, because it's something that we don't deserve, and we ask, when it has been given to us, then we should respect it, you know so this is what it's saying. So based on where your Saturn is placed in your chart, it is basically, majorly it is going to influence those areas. But globally, when we see, well, what the impact that it is going to make is in a global scenario, in terms of financial, economic, and all other, like, ways of communication between countries. Within the countries, again, it will be a time of unrest. There can be like either crisis or a lot of changes being made. Like in 1990 in India, there was another important change which was made. It was a reservation system in India, where a certain number of jobs and everything was reserved for a certain category of people, which has its own good and bad, which people are experiencing since last 30 years. So something, we created, we cannot change it now. We have to learn to work with it. So Saturn is like really fixed. So if this is a time when we should create good things for us, because if we create bad things for us, they are going to continue with us for next 30 years. That's a very long time. A lot of us won't be even alive to see the next 30 years. So that's why we have to be careful to see what kind of choices we're making, so that this learning that we have, our life, since last 30 years, like, you are not, for example, for you are maybe in your 30s. So it's the life that you have lived so far, you're going to give it a complete turnaround, and you're going to create a new life for yourself. So if the life before was like just full of ups and downs, unsurety, no clarity, and nothing, either you can continue that way, or you can transform yourself. No, so I'm not saying it for you personally. I'm saying it
Right.
generally. People, especially for people who are in their 28, between 27, 30 years old, or in their early 30s, because for them this is the first time the Saturn return is happening. So if they make the best of it, they will give a complete turnaround to their life. They will completely, you will see that somebody was just roaming around, like he was like considered to be like just a hippie, and the hippie suddenly turns out to be like somebody very serious about the whole world, taking care of a lot of things, and not just passing away his time saying like, world is beautiful, flowers are beautiful, butterflies are beautiful. Instead of just saying beautiful, he's creating beautiful things around us, adding value to our living. So that thing is possible to happen now. And it's really important for all of us to take, like, if you will say, see, the reason why everybody across the world is taking this racial discrimination so seriously, because this needs to end. And this the present time is such that it can help us. Saturn can really help us, but we should be completely prepared for it, in the sense completely devoted to it, not just on surface but inside us. If somebody is going and standing against racial discrimination, they should not feel it only now. They should feel it forever. They should really need it from their heart. Then Saturn will bless them. Otherwise, it will be a suffering for them. You know, instead of getting the benefits, they will just feel that it's a suffering. So that becomes really important. So this Saturn return, which has happened in now in 2020 for all of us, will continue for next 3 years. This is a great opportunity for us to bring phenomenal changes, if not for the world, at least to ourselves. You know? So based on where Saturn is placed in your chart, we can identify in which areas you should work even harder or where you should focus more. So based on that, we can actually plan not just our 3 years, but our entire life, coming life, the course, because you will see, even in your personal life, you will see a major change is coming, or major change will happen in your thought process, in the way you work, the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself is going to completely change. I, if you don't mind me asking, if I can ask you, like, how old are you? If you feel comfortable.
37 now. 37.
Okay. Okay. So the Saturn return had come to you sometime back, but
Yeah.
the process is continuing. You know, the process is continuing, and it is bringing, even going to bring more changes, because now the universal Saturn return is also going to influence a lot of positive things around you. See, in the difference between Vedic astrology and Western astrology is that we have a lot of things to look at. So when we look at Saturn return, we are not just looking at Saturn return, we are looking at Saturn return from so many more aspects for an individual. There is so many more terms that, you know, I don't even, there is no Hindi, English word to explain those things. But there's so many other phenomena which are related with Saturn and other planets, and they have a direct impact on us. They have a direct control over us. And through astrology, what we can do is like just learn the quality of the present time and start planning our time accordingly. So, for example, like, you know, looking at the pattern which Saturn was representing 30 years ago, if we take some learnings from there and apply in the present time, we will see that our world and our life is going to be so much better. But if we will not do that, we will see that there's still suffering, nothing has changed, only few names have changed, but everything remains the same.
Right.
So if you have to make that change, one moment, sorry. So if you have to make that change, then we have to be that change of ourselves, right? We have to be the change that we want to see. So if you want to see or make a better world, universe is giving so many signals, so many things. It has locked us down because it is telling us that be in yourself. Don't be so much outside. With internet, we are not in ourselves. There is so much of internet paranoia that we have to be on internet all the time, reading all the time. There's so much of excessive information that we are feeding ourselves. We are crossing over our own boundaries. We are not respecting our mental boundaries. Our mind is supposed to be like multidimensional, but in a healthy way. We are making it multidimensional in a toxic way by listening to fake news, listening to whatever thing is being floated on the internet without even looking at the authenticity of what is being said. Just we're blindly following it. And this is what Saturn came and it said, this is a time for us to go inwards and discover yourself, the boundaries, work with yourself, work with these boundaries, and then go out so that you are a better human. Okay. So is there, any other question that you would like to ask me related to this?
No, I think that explains it perfectly. And maybe in the next video, we can talk about some other things, maybe how a person could amplify the Saturn in their chart. Like, I know that, I don't know if you agree with these things, but there are some beliefs and rituals and gemstones and things that we can use to kind of to improve the Saturn position or something. I mean, I've heard it from so many different people in so many different ways. I don't know what's your view about that.
See, a remedy, a medicine Okay, a medicine will work only with the person who is alive. For what I mean to say is like uh, these remedies of gemstones and other all these things will work when you are basically on the path of fixing your karma. If you are
Mm-hmm.
not, these things don't work at all. These things don't work at all. I'm an astrologer. If I have to make a lot of money, I make a lot of money by selling all these things, gemstones and everything. But I recommend a gemstone only when I see that the person can handle it, the person can respect and appreciate it, and the person really needs it. Gemstone is not, or anything, all these rituals and all, they don't do anything unless you align yourself. The only patients who can be cured are the ones who want to get cured. Otherwise, medicines don't cure people. People cure themselves. It's the faith. If I don't know, it's called placebo effect. I don't know what it's called.
Yes.
So I give you just in India, like in villages and all, they used to give just like these sweet candies to people who were sick, just sweet candies, and say like, okay, this is, I'm giving you a good medicine, eat it. But people were so aligned, they wanted to get so well, that they just had the sweet candy and they were like, yeah, I'm feeling better, I'm good. So because they were aligned. So the reason why a remedy, why a gemstone will work for someone, it will only work for that person who is aligned with themselves, with the learning of Saturn, with the universe. Then it will work. Otherwise it's just jewelry. Like, I'm an astrologer, I don't wear any gemstone. I never wear any gemstone. I only wear it when I'm very much, I know why I'm wearing it and I'm aligned with that particular thought. Only then I wear it. Like, I wear it and I take it off. For sometimes you can wear it, but not permanently. But like, a lot of people will have a different opinion from me. So I'm not, here to police anyone saying that, only my decision is right, or this. No, this is my personal feeling about it. That unless I am in alignment, and nothing else matters. you know like, all these things, happiness and sadness is state of mind. So if mind is aligned, you can be happy being at a very shady place, like no electricity, no internet, nothing, and you can still be so happy. Or you could be living in JW Marriott and still not feeling happy. So so that's why this alignment, I think, is very important. Then the gemstone and other therapies work. Otherwise, I don't know, I'm not a strong supporter of those things.
That makes sense.
That's where the superstition comes from.
Right.
This is how people become superstitious.
That makes sense. But what about all the people who
So
worship,
your
you know,
video's frozen. I didn't hear what you said.
I said many people worship Shani, the Saturn
Mhm.
god in India, and there's temples built for it. I mean, do you think there's something there also about the way they build the temple? Or, I mean, it's all scientific in a way, the way they build the temples. It's not only just superstition or religious things. When I was reading about it, that they build certain temples where there's certain meridians, like energy channels of the earth meet, and there's like a kind of a charged area. I'm not sure about this specific temple. Is there like a whole different deity, Shani? I mean, how important is that, and why some people worship that? Or is it just like a whole different subject? It's a little too much right now.
It's a very, very deep subject, and there are many branches to it. Uh, Worshipping a deity, worshipping a god, uh, the meridians on which a particular temple is located. This is all. It's a very deep subject, and it's very different from what we're talking right now.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
since we're talking about Saturn, Saturn is known as Shani. Uh, Shani temples. There were not so many Shani temples in India,
Hmm.
but now there are Shani temple almost everywhere in India. The reason behind that is superstition. Is not the love for God, it's the fear from God.
Hmm.
It's the marketing, it's the TV series, serials, and too many astrologers saying bad things about Shani, which has created this fear around people that they have actually moved completely away from the real teachings of astrology and moved into the superstition of fearing, superstition of not respecting, not valuing the gods. Like people, when somebody tells them in India, like your Shani time has begun, people start cursing themselves. Why? Why are they cursing? Because somebody tells them that this time is going to be bad. No, it's not going to be bad. People become wealthiest, richest, healthiest during this time period. People also die, you know. So why are we saying it's a planet of transformation? It's working on Shiva's orders, and people don't want that. They just want a quick remedy. If you go
Right.
on Saturdays in temples, you will find in Shani temples especially, there's so much of oil being wasted over there. Shani doesn't want that oil. He wants you to use that oil in a productive way. Oil indicates, like, you have these limbs, oiling of these limbs. Shani's machinery, because of air in our joints. Air comes into our joint. That's the reason why our joints stop moving properly. It's telling you just oil yourself. Oil yourself, not literally oil. You can oil yourself by working, by in doing your karma. That's what it's saying. But
Mm,
people have completely changed the meaning, and they are like just creating superstition around it, like, oh, you have to do this planet is bad. No planet is bad or good. The best planet, which they say in astrology is Jupiter, also is bad, because there are people who die during Jupiter time period. There are people who are miserable during Jupiter time period. How can we categorize, like label someone as bad or good? It's not so. It's a combination, and it's based on what you do. Like, like everybody right now these days, if you're using a SIM card for your internet, everybody is getting like maybe 2 GBs of data in a day. It's up to you what you do with that 2 GB.
mm,
How is it that good or bad? It's your own decision.
right.
So even with Shani, the same thing applies. He's a beautiful planet, wonderful planet, most important planet, because it is the one which is teaching us, which is looking at us, which is giving us genuine feedback. Like Julia, a lot of people will come in your life and say, "Hey, Julia, you're so good, you're so nice, you're so good," and just come and say and go. But there would be few people who will come and critically look at you and say, "Look, Julia, this is what you did wrong. This is what you need to change. This is what will improve you." And these people are not your enemy, but they sound like. But what they're trying to do is like they're showing you the mirror, which you are not able to see. Shani does the same thing. He just
Mm,
comes and shows you the mirror. He's like, "Hey, look, last 30 years, you polluted the air, you completely messed up the environment, you completely, did not give justice or fair treatment to all the humans on this planet. Let me fix this for you. So let me punish you for that." That's all he's doing.
right. No, that makes perfect sense. I really appreciate that your commentary, especially about this, the worship of it. Because I kind of always thought the same way, but I'm not like, I don't have enough knowledge. There's a reason for everything, and also the way that people worship gods is different. Somebody does it from love and somebody does it from fear. So it always comes down to our personal path, I guess, our personal approach to things. Whether it's astrology or it's religion or anything, it really comes down to how we live our life, how we use these lessons, and how we're doing the things we're doing, what is the intention behind it. So thank you so
I
much.
feel like,
It was like really great explanation, especially for someone who still wants to understand more about this. Like, it's all literally, it's about us taking the power and really questioning why we're doing the things we're doing, how we're doing everything. So that's amazing.
yeah. Exactly. Just want to add one closing statement about like people choosing a path of God, like worshiping God in a loving way or in a fearing way. There's only one way of connecting with God, and that is connecting through love. It is never through fear. It has never been through fear. It has always been through love. If you read any scripture, if you read any religion, any book, anything, it will always say it has to be done through love. It is us, our weakness, that we create fear in the other person's mind so that we can control them, basically. What we, because humans generally what we want is like we want to have control. So just to have our control, we create this fear in other person's mind that, like, you know, if you don't worship this God, he's going to destroy you.
Mm,
God is not picking up on you. He created you. Why will he destroy you? He loves you. You know, that's
right.
the reason why he created you. So in whichever way you are, you know, like your room is a mess. For example, if your room is a mess, you did that mess. You will not burn your room because you created a mess. You will like, I like my mess. So even if you're a messy child, God will still love you. You know, so anything which is done without love is not done at all. That's what I feel. Might be wrong, but that's what my philosophy is. So yeah.
That's also my philosophy. I think it's a good note to kind of resume this for today, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll continue on the next video with some other questions that I'll come up with. It was very interesting. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And
Thank you.
with some technical difficulties, we still got through it. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned and keep watching Shanti Talks for more astrology and everything that we talk here about. So I'm excited to have some more talks with Kumarishiji. So thank you so much, and
Thank you, Shantiji.
we'll see you soon, hopefully. Namaste,
Namaste. Have a good day.
and you too. Bye.